So let's get started. So first of all, on behalf of Harbinger Systems, a warm welcome to all of you, and good morning and good afternoon. I'm Mandar Kulkarni, Senior Marketing Manager at Harbinger Systems, and your host for today. I'm pleased to welcome you for today's webinar, Simplifying Test Automation Using Harbinger's Automation Framework. So let me introduce our distinguished speaker for today, Avinash Makhdoom. He is a General Manager Quality at Harbinger Systems. Avinash, with 19 plus years of experience in software testing and development and 5 years in academia. He has been instrumental in building innovative solutions for specific software testing needs in automation and performance engineering. Avinash is involved in creating accelerators and frameworks for software testing solutions in Harbinger Systems. He is an eminent speaker at national and international conferences and academic institutions. So without further ado, I hand over the presentation to Avinash. Over to you, Avinash.
Hi, good morning and good afternoon to all speakers, and also good evening to the Indian attendees. So today we'd like to present you one of the framework which we have developed in the Harbinger Systems, which will take care of different types of technologies or different types of architectures which are not common to be handled in a single framework typically. So with this, we'll just walk you through the agenda, what we are going to cover in today's webinar. So firstly, we'll understand what are the main drivers for automation, what is the need, and why people would like to go for automation. Then once we understand that, we observe that in many organizations go with the automation and start the projects, but after first release or after some a couple of releases, they slowly realize that the maintenance work has been drastically increased, and slowly it becomes so big that people decide to stop it, and this automation project ending after 6 months or 9 months. So there are different reasons for it, and we'll go through these different reasons, and then we'll find out what should we do or how to take care of this. Then we'll introduce how this Harbinger's integrated hybrid automation framework is built and how it can take care of most of the challenges we find in automation. We'll see the benefits of the framework. Then we'll also see the detail about the automation life cycle if we are using this framework. It's typically the software similar to the software development life cycle, but has some differences with that as we are using the framework, and as its main objective is to perform the testing of our application. We also walk you through the best practices about how to build a script using this framework. We have one case study and one sample scenario which we want to actually show you as a video recorded demo, so that we can understand how those things work and move from to and fro from the Windows application as well as web application in the single script. So that's all, and during this, if you have any questions, you can obviously type in the window, and we'd like to answer as many of them as possible. So,
yes. Okay, so before we get further into the topic, so let's consider some drivers for automation testing from various perspectives like management, and technology, testing, and finance. So to start with, test automation guarantees repeatability and accuracy, which increases user and client confidence. Also enables testers to concentrate more on difficult, test scenarios and reduce overall risk. To maintain aggressive releases and schedules organizations are adopting agile development nowadays. And when testing in agile environment, the ability to quickly react to ever-changing software systems and requirements is necessary. So automation testing can help maintain this momentum and reduce time to market. Now, if we consider technology here, so today applications are being built utilizing newer evolving technologies like big data, cloud, and mobility. And adding to the complexities is social and collaborative features being integrated in the applications. Also, the ever-increasing number of OS and browser versions add the more efforts required in the manual testing. And when we take into the account the testing here, so manual testing can be monotonous, error-prone, and therefore becoming overwhelming. Test automation does away testers' frustration and allows the test executions without user interaction, thus increasing application reliability. So also, frequent repetition of same or similar test cases is laborious and time-consuming to perform it manually. Test automation allows performing different types of testing effectively, and thus result in high test coverage and increase in productivity with accomplishing the task in less time with few resources. So coming to the financial aspect as we see on the screen, so with so many plus points, test automation can surely have significant impact on clients' bottom line by helping in quick realization of the ROI, low operating costs for software testing, and achieving break-even point quickly. So frankly, I'm surprised that with so many technical and strategic advantages, there are not many takers for automation testing in the industry yet. So Avinash, would you like to throw more light on this?
Yeah. So the next slide, we'll be seeing the why automation projects fail. This is very interesting and very people will be very curious to know why in spite of all these advantages, why these automation projects stop or like they are halted after some time. So there are some of the reasons we'd like to mention that we know in today's world there are continuous changes in requirement and UI and object properties. So as this thing change and as automation is directly dependent on the UI object properties, so any change in that will make necessary. So we need to change the script or automation as well. And the more they have, or at more places we have to do the maintenance or like changes, it increases the effort of maintaining those things. And as we are aware, like typically automation can be performed by 3 different methodologies. One is typically common or mostly beginners, we start with the record and play type of automation. Some people start with descriptive programming, those who are good in programming and they have good resources who are skilled in typical programming knowledge. And the third one is obviously which we're going to talk about, which is framework-based automation. So, but the first two, the record and play and descriptive programming, most of them become headache in terms of maintenance as we move from release to release and as more and more things happen. Because particularly for descriptive programming, which is more like popular in automation among automation engineers, the requirement of skilled resources is the main challenge. And even if the automation engineers claim that they know this programming, obviously they may not be as good as a typical normal developer. So obviously they will have a lot of bugs and other issues, and maintaining those scripts will becomes difficult. And even getting those skilled resources in testing organization is another challenge, because typically even good programmers do not want to work in testing organization. So these are some challenges once we start it, and then people move from this project, and getting the replacement for that becomes very challenging. And also, in order to start it and in order to get quick automation results, people just write the scripts without using proper modularity or reusability thing. So what happens is, many of the steps which are common, they write the same code for these common steps in every script. So if any change happens, people have to go and modify each and every script where those steps are used. So this increases again the maintenance activities. There is also another challenge of coordination between manual testers and automation engineers. So typically there is some gap or some type of misunderstanding between these two teams. Because manual testers are more like good or expert in the functionality or the business aspect of the product, while automation engineers are more keen on developing the scripts or doing some programming. So when they convert it, so obviously there is some gap in understanding the actual steps, because some of the steps are not explicitly mentioned. Those are known to the manual testers, but when automation engineers try to directly translate those steps into automation, they will just skip those things, and many times this doesn't work well. Then the development time is also high, because it's not that we start automation and immediately get to the results. Typically it's observed that if we require, say, 1 hour to execute something, we will require at least 3 times that much to develop the script which will perform that task. So it is a lot of time initially required, and many times the organization put pressure on building these scripts quickly, and then that results in a lot of errors and issues further. And also nowadays the applications use different types of objects. Like we know that they are also using web objects, Windows objects. They also have some web services or CLI commands. And then our test scenarios cut across all these things. So we need to have end-to-end scenarios automated, which will have some steps done in web, some steps done in Windows, some steps in CLI, and they move to and fro. And then typically it is not possible to have all covered by a single automation tool, because most of the automation tools are technology specific. So some will work very well with web, some will work with Windows, some will work with CLI, like that. So having a single integrated thing becomes more challenging and difficult to coordinate. So these are some of the reasons which make the automation fail after some time. And so in spite of the lot of benefits we see, or at least foresee before we start it, we end up in stopping that and continuing the manual testing. So, but it doesn't mean that we should not be doing automation, and if we follow certain things and we use some good framework, it's definitely beneficial, and we can reduce the maintenance to minimum level. So to take care of these things, these things in mind, we decided to develop an integrated framework. So the meaning of integrated is basically we take care of different technologies in a single framework. So we don't have different frameworks for each one, and so that we can have a single scenario which will cut across everything in a single script. And normal tester or somebody who's going to write the automation script doesn't have to really bother whether it is a web object or Windows object. He can still write the script as if it is a normal application. Some of the key features of this framework are that this building the automation script doesn't require any programming knowledge. So as you have seen earlier, one of the challenges is having the requirement of very skilled programmer to write the automation scripts. But these frameworks take care of all the programming one, and whatever the common functions or keys are required, those are already built up in the framework, and the actual tester has to just write a simple manual or like English like test script in Excel. So sorry, that reduces the dependency on the skilled programmers. Then other main feature is like we can start this automation even before the build is available. So many times in the quick development or the what we typically follow now, in that the build is available quite late in the cycle. So normally we cannot start the automation, because unless the UI and build is available, we won't be able to develop the script. But because this framework allows us to have all the keywords and objects defined earlier, even if the wireframe or even if the mockups are available, we know that some names are some objects should be there. So using that, we can actually write the script, because we are not recording or we are not requiring the actual details of the flow. As long as we know the flow, once we know the requirement and how the flows are flowing, we can start writing the scripts. And as soon as the application is built and it's available for testing, we can even start the execution or by doing some minor changes or as per the actual application. So 80 to 90% of the scripts could be ready even before the application is available. So this is one of the very good advantage of using this framework. And the other resultant of all this is that if we improve this, the automation script development by more than 40%. Actually, we already implemented it 6-7 different projects, and this is the minimum that we have got. So we are just conservative in saying how much productivity gain we get. But many times we get even 2 times more productivity compared to the standard way of like record and play type of development or using the descriptive programming. So this helps in writing more scripts in less time, and we will be able to have the scripts ready even in short cycles like sprints for 2 weeks or 4 week cycle. Even if we get 1 or 2 weeks for this, we were able to complete this thing, and by the time the builds are available, we are able to, or we are ready for actual execution. So let's see the architecture of how this framework is built. So at the center, you are seeing that there is a main test driver, which is the main driver to drive this actual automation. So it is actually takes the inputs from object repositories, and object repository could be Windows object repository or web object repository, depending upon the what types of objects we are planning to automate. And the other input is the test script. So it parses the test script, and based on the commands which are written in that, it will try to identify the object using the object repository, and based on if it is web, it will use Selenium WebDriver to actually perform those actions on the application. If it is Windows things, we are using Auto-ID driver, and even for CLI thing, we are using Auto-ID driver. So based on what type of object it is, the driver is smart enough to transfer the actual command to the respective driver. Either it could be Selenium WebDriver or Auto-ID driver, and it in turn will actually perform the actions or the whatever the like clicking the mouse or inputting some characters or data into the text box or selecting some drop-down menu. All those actions will be performed in the application as per the steps provided in the test script. So this is the high-level overview of the framework or how the framework operates. So now let's see some of the benefits of this framework. So this framework basically facilitates to write the automation script in plain English or Excel format. So it is a normally Excel script in 3-4 columns, where it is very easy to write for even a normal tester. As long as he knows what the scenario is or what the flow or the steps are there, he can simply write them in given format, which are typically the keyword and the object, property, and the data. So those columns are there, he has to simply write it. So once he understands the basic structure of the script is written, he can simply write in manual steps or like typically which are English-like in Excel. And for this, he doesn't require any automation. And currently, just to tell you, the projects where we have deployed this framework, all the automation is done by the manual testers. We don't have, these projects don't have the special or specialized programmer to perform this automation. Then this framework allows to have a single scenario which can cut across multiple applications, having web UI, Windows UI, or command line UI. So this is very interesting and very useful because today's application will have this complex structure, and typically the normal frameworks which are specific to Selenium or specific to Auto-ID or specific technology, if you want to use these, then we have to run them separately, and coordinate those things becomes very challenging. And again, we need to have 3 different frameworks or 3 different types of scripts we have to manage and maintain. So it eliminates that need, and we can have to manage only one type of script, and which is very easy to manage because it's plain English. It allows to facilitates to have highest level of reusability and minimize the maintenance of the automation. So one of the key things is that it is keyword driven. So it's actually hybrid, so both keyword driven as well as data driven. And keyword driven allows to define a specific object action on a type of object with specific action only once. So we are not writing that code in every script or every time it is called. So all these things are extracted separately, and as a part of the keyword library, we have built all the common functions or common keyword actions are already written. And in case we find for some application a new type of object, we can add one more keyword or additional keywords for that and enhance the library to ensure that it also takes care of the objects which are currently not available in the object library. And also, it's not just for the keywords, even for the steps which are Excel, we can also have the reusable things. For example, we know that in many of the scripts, some of the steps are common, or like many of the steps are repeated across multiple scripts. So we don't have to have the same code or same commands even in Excel. So what we can do is we can have small Excel files which will perform specific actions or specific sequence, and those can be recalled. So there is a lot of reusability, and typically whenever we find that something is common, we don't put in the script. All the common actions and steps are taken out in a separate script so that no code is repeated. So if any change happens, we have to modify only at one place. We don't have to repeat that, and there is no asynchronous thing, or there is no like in one place we have changed something, another place the change is not happening. So all this issue doesn't arise, and everything is in sync. So because change has to be done only at one place. Then one of the important aspects of automation is we need to get very good reports in different formats or different detail level. Because once we run the scripts, normally we run it in unattended mode that we are not actually observing. Once we start the automation, we actually go for some other work. We can work on some other aspect, or start writing some new test cases, or even before leaving the office, you can just start thing, and next day morning you can check the results. So the reports has to be very good, and they have to be having full information about what has happened, what has failed, what has passed. So we have developed a 3-level reports where firstly it is a high-level summary report. So it is typically used for management. So they just want to know what scripts passed and what failed. So it contains a list of all the scripts, which are names of each script we have executed, and just the status, whether it's a pass or fail. And then there is the next level report, which is detailed report, and it contains the status, like the pass or execution status of each and every step. So for every action, whatever we perform, there is pass or fail. So typically, even if single step is failed or single particular action is failed in the script, that entire script is marked as failed in the summary report. So when we say some pass in summary report, it means that each and every step in the entire script has been successful, and we don't really need to go and see the detailed report, because if summary says that's passed, that means each and every step is already passed, so we don't need to go into detail. But if any test cases fail, we can go into detailed report and find out exactly where it failed, which particular step is failing, and we can validate whether it's actual failure or because some other reason. We can manually verify that, and if we find it's actual fail, we can file a defect. And there is another 3rd level report, which is screenshot report. This is very useful, particularly for developers or someone who wants to fix the thing, to know the exact status of the application at the time of failure. So what happens is we have implemented one function of taking the screenshot whenever any command fails. So automatically every keyword has this implementation. So whenever any particular say action fails, it automatically calls the screenshot function, and it takes the screenshot of the application status. Whatever message is, error message or something unexpected has appeared, we can see that. So even if we are not there, we know exactly what happened when something was failed. So that helps to easily fix the issues as well. So this is the 3-level HTML reports we can see, and based on the need, we can go through the summary report. If we require, go to detailed report, and for the failures, we can also see the screenshots of that point, so that we know exactly what was the status and what could be the possible reason of failure. Then it also supports multi-browser. So currently we are supporting 4 browsers: Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, and Safari. And again, it's very easy to add a new browser. So if in future, if you are trying to have some new browser to be also supported for your testing, we can easily add that support. And it also includes like different versions as well. So there is no need to have separate a separate support for each version. Like for example, when it's IE, it could be anything. It could be IE 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever we have. Same thing for Firefox, Chrome. So different versions of this different browsers also can be supported, and all this can run through the same script. We don't have to modify anything for any of these browsers. We just need to mention what browser we want to launch at the time of starting the scripts, and that we need to mention in the configuration file. So these are some of the benefits of this framework, which will definitely help in building the automation suite even by a normal manual tester and in very short time, and it will be more reliable, and even if there are changes happening over a period, it will be able to take care by just making small changes or one-time changes in the either in the keyword file or the object repository properties. So now we'll move on to the detailed automation life cycle using this framework. So we can see that it's very similar to the typical software development life cycle with some changes. So obviously we will not go today because of the time constraint with each and every block, but we will just go high level in some of the important blocks. Where in the first initiation we need to ensure that this framework or this particular setup works for your application by just creating a couple of scripts and ensuring that all the objects are able to recognize and we are able to execute the scripts. And with this, we can actually do the scope finalization, because we know that even we have any good tool, we cannot automate all 100% all the test cases. So because of different reasons. So with this, we will some exercise, we will be able to define how much we can automate, what are the test cases we can include in the scope, and what are the script test cases we have to take out of the scope. So this scope finalization can be done at the end of the first phase of initialization, and we have a deliverable, something like automation assessment report and a coverage report. So it will explain what is included, what could be included in the automation, and what could be out of that, and of course the reason also why something cannot be automated. So we have this report generated at the end of this phase. In the design phase, we need to provide the setup, obviously the environment setup about how we want to set up this entire framework and other files and directories. We mentioned that. And then the most important part of this is creating object repository. So object repository is actually collection of properties of different objects in your application. So your application is, if it's suppose web-based application, in all the HTML pages, whatever objects you are going to use for performing action, it's not necessary to have everything in this object repository. Only those objects which are used for performing some action like click actions or select action or writing some text in that. So only those objects we need to identify. And for that, for web-based application, we typically use Firebug and also Firepath if the objects normally are not found, the properties are not very clear, so we can use XPath, and for that we use Firepath. And for Windows-based thing, there is AutoIT provides its own utility, and using that we can identify the object property. And obviously we have to ensure that it is unique property, because there are multiple properties up there, so we have to make sure that whatever property we select in the object repository is unique, so that it will perform the action on the right object. And also we can write a lot of library functions or reusable functions which could be common particularly for testing something or like checking something. So you can verification points, we can add those things initially. And then we have to also identify how the data is to be created and how the data is to be supplied to the scripts. In the development phase, we have to rationalize the test suite. So meaning of rationalization is actually we are not mapping or creating test automation script for each and every test case, because when you are doing manually, we need to have those separate test cases. But when we are converting into automation script, one single automation script can take care of many test cases. So because there are a lot of common steps, so we don't need to really have different scripts. So based on, we can put some conditions, and based on that we can have multiple test cases covered in a single script. Also we can have data-driven type of test cases combined in a single thing, because the steps are same, only the data which is used to executing that are different. So we have to use also provide the facility to do data-driven type of scripting, wherein we can have repeat the same set of commands using loop command, and we can have set of data from Excel file which could be any number of sets. We can have, like, for example, if we have 10 sets of data to be executed, we can use 10 rows of Excel, and each row will provide one set of data for the application. Then the actual script development happen, and it's nothing but writing an Excel file, which is quite easy. Then as best practice, we need to ensure that we are covered like proper flow, so that we need to get it reviewed from senior person. And then if any change is required, we can implement the changes and make the script ready. We need to also rigorously test the script before it goes for actual production or execution. And so we need to create first data, which is required for that. Then there are two types of testing we have to do. One is single mode and other is batch mode. Because first in single mode, we need to execute and ensure that it works as expected in an individual script. While we have to also ensure that when it put in the batch file or batch mode, it also runs the same way, because we have observed that many times the script works fine when it's run individually, but when you put in the batch of say 40, 50 scripts or 100 scripts, because of some conditions or traces or something which is not cleaned up properly in previous testing, it can impact, and we will see that some of the next script will fail. So to avoid those things, we have to also ensure that every script is independent, and that will be proven, or that will be confirmed by if it runs successfully in batch mode. And then if we find any issues, obviously we fix it and ensure that now everything is working as expected, and then we integrate it into the main test suite. And during the actual execution phase, we prioritize the things and create the batches, because we all the time not required to execute every time. So we have to decide what test cases to be executed in what batches. So we create the batch file that we call in the test suite. And then if some test cases which we do not want to run, there is a way to comment that or just remove the part of that so that they will not be run. So only the selected test cases will be run, and we decide the priority as whatever the required. And we need to test data once again create. Either we can use the update test data, or we can have a mechanism to automatically build the test data required for the thing. Or manually we can create in Excel, because that is also another Excel file. And do the execution, and then do the report analysis at the standard way I specified, like see the summary report, then see the detailed report for failed one, and then you see the screenshotting test for the failure to get more details. And based on this, we can make a decision and file the defects. So this is a typical life cycle, and obviously we move from release to release. There could be changes and ongoing thing. This is ongoing thing, and every cycle we have to gather or get the changes from the development team. What are the new changes or new functionality getting added? So based on that, we have to modify the scripts or modify the properties of the objects, and we may have to add more libraries or more functions, and then integrate those things, test those changes, and integrate in main suite. So this is a continuous cycle which will happen release or release, and it will ensure that we'll having a continuous successful test automation without any issues. So all the things will be known, any changes will be known in advance before it actually we execute them. So if you follow this thing and have proper coordination with development team, we can ensure that maintenance is kept minimum, and so that we get very good and fast ROI. So apart from this, there are some best practices we follow. So again, to ensure keeping the maintenance minimum, and also that we know that because of certain reasons, sometimes the script fails or sometimes even the browser crashes, but we don't want to stop the execution just because one test case is failed or even the browser is crashed. So to ensure that the entire test suite, suppose it contains 200 test cases, in the evening we start it, and for example after 10 scripts it's failing, so we don't want to come to know next day morning that it has stopped and after 11 scripts nothing has been executed. So to avoid this, we actually had developed this best practices, so that we, irrespective of whatever happens, we always get execution of all the scripts in spite of some failures or any browser crashes. So typically we start with the browsers, launching the browser, then we import the data file which is required for that. Do the official, typically we require login, and then whatever steps are there, step 1 to n, we record or write the script for that, and we have to log out. So although it may not be required in the test case, we ensure that after every test case we log out, and we also ensure that we close the browser after every test case. So even though you may feel that there are some additional steps could be required, which may not be required in a normal manual testing, but this will ensure the certainty that every script will execute it, and even if, for example, the script fails, we know that that test case will be marked as a fail, and when we start the new test case, automatically new browser will launch. So it will not interrupt the overall execution and continue. So this is the mechanism we follow, and we recommend for anybody who want to use this framework and use automation. And apart from this, the other things we need to take care of is identifying the right variables and creating appropriate data in the data file for each variable. If we have the multiple sets of data, or we have a data-driven thing, we have multiple rows of this. And for each scenario, we can have each different test data combination. We can have one row block for it. And for each step of scenario, we have to select the appropriate keyword. So initially, we need to go through the documentation we created, which has all the information about each keyword, how to use that, what is the utility, or where to use that. So we have to select the right appropriate keyword for the given step, select the appropriate object, then the unique property which is there for required that will be picked up from the object repository, and any data is required for that, we have to add that. So this way we can have, for each step we can continue writing in the script, And also we can add some additional validation, like if you want to make some UI checks, like if particular button is checked or not, or whether particular object is enabled or disabled, or any message is there. So anything we want to validate, we can add those checks in between to ensure that after doing that action, the application behaving correctly, or the status of the application is as expected. And we also take the screenshot of the application at every new page. So when we change the page or when a new page is opened, we take the screenshot. So when afterwards we can see that thing, that like they are moving in the, everything is executed correctly. And obviously the screenshots are also automatically taken when anything fails. So this is a typical standard best practice we follow, and which ensures that we get very good success in developing thing, executing thing, and maintaining the automation. So we'll have a small case study of one of the projects which we have implemented. So this was a very, we just briefly explain what was the client, and they have a network security domain. And basically they had main challenges of having a lot of patches and hotfixes. So, and every 2 weeks they used to have patches and fixes, and sometimes even in 1 week also. So a lot of time they actually get very less time in testing, and they have to support a lot of different browsers. And because of the very less testing performed, because of lack of time and resources, there used to be a lot of defect leakages, and again it will be a vicious cycle, which again gives a bad name to the organization, because we have so many issues go to the client and they complain and they ask for another patch. So this cycle continues. So, and again they have to release every 2 weeks. That was a mandatory thing for them. So manual testing was not enough, and they were not giving good quality of the application. And they also have large permutations, combinations of test data, because they were having specific types of antivirus type of applications where they need to support all different types of data for that, and to ensure that it is successfully able to perform on that. So having so many combinations tested was becoming out of scope. Like it was impossible for manual tester to do that. So we proposed this automation and built this framework. Of course, we had already in the going, and we specifically added for them whatever additional keywords were required for them. And then based on this, they were able to perform the all the testing in time for all the browsers and testing all the combinations. So just to have some idea, they had only 35 scripts, and they were able to cover almost 1200 test cases, and they were able to execute just in less than a week's time. So that is the main benefit they got, and they were able to reduce the defect leakage ratio, which ultimately reduces the overall cost of maintenance and also ensures very good quality product to the end customer. So, and also improve the effectiveness of the testing cycle. So these are the benefits we get, and this is very well proven case study for one of the clients. So now the last part about having actual demo. So we have taken one particular scenario of our own application offline player. So it has some typical steps, like first we have to do the settings, and basically we have to start with the Windows type of objects, where we have to do the settings, we have to set some proxy checkbox, and also all these actions are be performed on Windows application. And then you have to start the URL and start the offline player and perform the login and some actions, check the progress and do certain actions. Then again you have to connect to a database. Yeah, so there is another facility to this framework that we also support different databases. We can connect to database and do some query and ensure that whatever validation you want to check, that after doing something, if any data is modified in the database, it actually happened or not, we can actually make a query and check that. Apart from seeing on the UI, we can also verify in the backend and using this thing. So we are also validating that in this thing. And then switching the help window and closing the window, and again opening the Windows application and clicking restoring button. So we are trying to show that first we are starting Windows application, then doing some action, then starting a web application, performing some action, and again coming back to Windows. So this scenario we have recorded, and basically, of course, first we created the script and using this framework, and we'll just showing the execution now. It is started now. So it is performing the actions on this is the Windows particular panel or object. Now it is starting the web browser. So you are checking the progress. Checking the status, and the status is also checked in the database. So it is doing a query there and checking which is correct or not. Yeah, so that's its completed execution, and that's the end of the demo. So now we are open for any questions, and we can write the questions to in the chat window, and we'll try to address them.
Yes, that was a great session. Thanks, Avinash, and I'm sure the audience is also pleased with such a rich and insightful session. And as Avinash mentioned, we will be taking some questions from the audience. And just to remind, if you have any queries, please type in the questions pane. And if due to time constraint, we are not able to cover your question in today's session, we will definitely send you the Q&A document covering all the answers that are raised today. Okay.
Can you take up this question?
Yes. Yeah. We have a couple of them. So first question is, okay, how much percentage of automation can be achieved by using this framework?
Well, actually there is no formula or there is no straight answer to it, because it all depends upon the object identification. So the framework will support most of the objects and will help in whether it's Windows objects or web objects, but still there could be something that could be like different technology or completely third-party tool which we are using there, so that may not be able to recognize. So it entirely depends upon the object recognition. If as long as any object which is there as part of the test case is recognizable, all those test cases related to that can be covered. So we have typically observed that with this framework, most of the projects which we have implemented, they are able to cover 80 to 85% of the test cases into automation. And some of the things are not because of recognition, but because of some constraint, like because one of the steps, like for example, they want to reboot the machine or they want to delete the files and all those things. So that would be difficult to simulate. So other than such things, most of other scenarios they have, all those can be covered. So we cannot like say exactly whether it will be 100% or 90%, but typically we can definitely get around 85% of the test cases we can cover in this automation. I hope that answers.
Yes. Great, thanks. So we have another question is, what happens if the browser is crashed during the automation execution?
Yeah, I think you mentioned that scenario particularly. It's very much likely that because of even the browser can crash. So that we are taking care in the framework such a way that in every script we are launching the browser. If it's assuming that it's a web-based application, so we start every test case with launching the application and then end every test case with closing the browser explicitly. So what happens is that every test case is independent. So even if the suppose browser crashes, what will happen is the current script which is running, it will try to perform some actions, but there is no browser. So it will keep on marking those steps fail, and at the end of the thing, it will try to close the browser, but browser is already crashed. There is no question of closing. It will move to the next test case as per the test suite, and when it moves to test case, again new browser is launched. So that whatever browser has crashed has no impact for the next test case, and we can still continue the execution without any interruption, and we will have all the remaining test cases which will be covered even if the browser crashes in between.
Right. Thanks. Okay, another interesting question, Avinash. Since the script execution requires HIHF framework, so what happens when the contract with Harbinger is over?
Yeah, so this is the specific question that we are providing services to our client and giving them this framework for development of the scripts. But as a part of this, whatever deliverables we provide to the client, we consider it's a property of the client, and we ensure that their whatever scripts they have developed, they will be able to still continue to execute even if they had terminated the contract with Harbinger. And we also provide the Java file of the framework to them so that they will be still able to continue using the whatever scripts they have developed until that point. They can still be executed. Only thing is probably they will not be able to add any new functions to the framework because, but whatever has been developed so far or in their project, everything they can use and carry with them, even if they stop working with Harbinger.
Great. Okay. So I think we need to take one more question. So we can take last, right? Okay. So how much percentage of saving could we get from maintenance efforts?
Yeah, so this is again a relative question and depends upon what is your benchmarking. In the sense, when you're saying saving compared to the other methodologies or other, so it depends how badly you have developed automation in the sense without using this framework. But typically we have found that the automation is actually 70 to 75% reduced because typically we have seen that once one set of one release, for example, we have created some suit. In the next release, we spend almost 30 to 35% of the effort for rework in maintaining that. So that typically gets reduced to hardly 5 to 10%. So of extra rework effort or maintenance effort. So definitely it is drastically reduced, but we cannot say exactly how much saving we get because of that. But we can ensure that it will not be a hurdle in developing. Because we have seen many times that the automation engineer is completely busy in just fixing the issues of the previous scripts which are failing and is unable to write new scripts because he has first fixed the whatever is not working. So that won't happen, and he can continue to work for writing the new scripts for the new releases and making the planned changes in the scripts because of the planned changes in the application behavior or application features. So the maintenance is really minimal because we have to just modify a couple of properties which are changed, and we generally discourage making changes in the script. So even if the properties are changed, script will not change because the whatever property that object is using, we just change in the object repository. But we keep the logical name same, and even if the name of the object is changed, the logical name will always remain same. So whatever was decided or provided initially, that will still remain same until we actually do not require or completely eliminate that object. Other than that, that script will always be there. Only it expects some changes in the object repository, or we want to add some few more lines. Suppose new object is added in the new feature because there is some additional checkbox added in the scenario or the UI that we need to add in between. So that is the only addition. But that is again very simple, just like adding one extra line in the Excel. So that way the maintenance is really minimal, and we try to keep the same script for a very long time.
Thanks, Avinash. Hope you got the answer. So I think we need to stop here. So today's webinar is being recorded, and everyone will receive an email with a link to view recording of this event and along with the Q&A document. And finally, I will make a small request to all to please fill in a short feedback survey form that will pop up on your screen once you exit this webinar. It won't take long, but will surely provide us important insights on how to improve and what topics to choose from in the future. And with this, we conclude today's session. Once again, thank you all for joining us, and have a great day ahead.